Hello, and welcome to PremiumBytes, where we shine a light on the unsung world of insurance technology leaders. I am Sudhar Krishnamachary, one of your co-hosts, and with Samir Ahmed, our other co-host, we're here to have meaningful conversations about the evolving technology landscape inside the insurance industry. Let's acknowledge it. Being an insurance firm CIO or Chief Information Officer is one of the toughest leadership roles in today's world. You've got a risk-averse mindset baked into the very fabric of the industry, a legacy estate that must complement the modern tech, and a talent crisis from both the retiring side and next-gen recruiting side. And then you got the slower pace of innovation. We see it because we're right there in the trenches with you as consultants day in and day out. Our mission is to deep dive, have conversations that carry substance, offer practical insights, and help you validate and navigate the relevant challenges of being an effective CIO in the insurance sector. So thank you for joining us on this adventure. Let's jump right into our next conversation.
Hey, welcome back, Samir.
Hey, Sudhar, welcome back. How you doing?
I'm doing well. It's good to be back on the circuit after a bit.
Yeah, it's been a bit. We did our last episode on broker tech with our first ever report on PremiumBytes. So that was a good effort and report. Hopefully, all of you found it useful, and depending on your interest, we can keep it up with maybe a yearly update.
Yeah, I think that was one of the first times I think we've done something different, and I'm really glad. And I think in 2026, I'm hoping that we can do a couple of more things like that. So let's hope that there's some good feedback on that one.
Yeah.
So on that one, I think we have a slightly off the beaten path topic for today, right? So on the one side, the SaaSocalypse, Claude and all of the other coding LLMs are now causing a lot of ripple effect on the SaaS world. And then you and I have always talked about like the retirement cliff on the insurance side. So were you kind of like, seeing both sides of the equation pop up in the media at the same time?
Yeah, I mean, look, the retirement cliff has been steadily building. So I'm not sure that there's any specific media story that comes to mind, but I think there's stats out there talking about 50% of the workforce being over age 45, and close to 400,000 positions expected to be vacated by the end of this year due to baby boomers retiring. So that part is, been a steady build up. But yes, the market's taking a beating. In particular, SaaS providers. That's certainly been in the news and affected even insurance brokerages in a big way. So very interesting times for sure.
Very interesting time, which leads me to formally introduce the topic. Is that it's talent crisis time in insurance, and I'm kind of smiling because I think it was always talent crisis time in insurance. It's just that I think it's now there's a double whammy in my opinion that is hitting, and we could talk through if a double whammy or triple whammy, but so that's what we wanted to spend the next 25 minutes or so with you guys is talk through some dynamics on the talent crises and what's transpiring. In that sense, is there a dynamic, Samir, that there is an exiting group of retirees, and all of these are presumably like deep experts with insurance background for many years and across the insurance spectrum? But then there's also a less and less volume of people coming in from the Gen Z and the Gen Alpha entering the field. Do you think that there is actually a massive gap between who's entering versus the volume exiting?
There is absolutely. I mean, the pool of folks that are interested in insurance is small, right? And we will talk through sort of some of the reasons, at least what we've observed, and more importantly, what we can do about it. But yeah, it is hitting the industry from both ends. People are retiring in large numbers, and then there's no pipeline for replacement at the same rate.
And do you think it's part of it is perception challenges? Maybe use the word even perception tax. Insurance is one of those industries that is not as much visible as an iPhone or even a bank or a Walmart or a Amazon truck or a UPS truck. So do you think that it's just because it's in the back of people's mind that no younger generation of population is interested in pursuing, or is it a combination of? At least I have two teenagers in high school, and I constantly ask them, like, hey, does anybody talk to you guys about insurance in your high school, career counseling or financial literacy? And answer is not much.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely think that is the case, and we can talk a little bit on the broader impacts of that, and the broader sort of applicability of that to the industry. But it's perhaps, and in my estimation, even more acute when it comes to tech roles. And for our purposes, that is what we want to hone in on. Um, for most people, right? Insurance is almost like a penalty that you have to pay because you want to drive your car, because you want to own your home, right? It's not something otherwise people even think about. On the professional liability side, right? If you get into one of the professions that require it, they also view it as sort of a tax on their earnings, right? But these are all from a consumer standpoint, from a prospective employee standpoint, right? It's common in our industry, right? People talk about how they happen to fall into their role. It's
I would
not,
say the same thing of me. Yeah.
yeah. Other than a few, situations where you have folks, pursuing math degrees and getting into an actuarial career, or, career agents from their, legacy in their family having adopted the same business. That aside, there's not much that people think about as, when I grow up, I'm going to do such and such in insurance.
Samir, I've been dabbling a little bit with on the at least on the life and health, agency side of things a little bit. And what prompted in my mind when you said is, we've been always like talking about insurance, and in the back of my mind say it's all about, insurance is always sold. It's never bought, right? It's for peace of mind. Uh, how about maybe there's an opportunity as an industry for us to think and say, hey, maybe it's not so much about peace of mind after the calamity or the incident or whatever happens, right? But what about engineering a global resilience at a macro level as well as at an individual level? It's all about living, peacefully and prosperously versus preparing for the eventuality.
Yeah.
Is insurance, or could insurance repurpose itself?
It's we are definitely in need of a rebrand and recast for people the value that insurance provides. I mean, in fact, in our podcast, right, we had an interview with Graham Topol of MGT Insurance, episode 28. And he spoke very precisely and articulately about the fundamental role of insurance as a risk transfer mechanism that enables hundreds and thousands of small businesses and the entrepreneurs behind those businesses to actually get their businesses off the ground, they would not be able to do it if the system of risk transfer wasn't there. And that's just one small example for one small sector, right? It is fundamentally the fuel, the lubricant for commerce, right? Insurance, and we got to do a better job of providing that perspective out to the market at large.
I 100% agree. Lubricant of commerce, a beautiful term. Stewards of resilience. I'm just making that up, but I think those are all ways to rechristen that. But I think you already alluded to this idea. So while we park this perfect storm of retirement and incoming talent crises, I think maybe we move on to the second pattern that you and I talked about in prep. Isn't there a paradox of tech talent, particularly for our audience who are insurance technology executives at the middle and senior level in an insurance company? Isn't there a paradox that they're dealing with? Right, in one end, COBOL becomes the symbol of insurance, and then on the other end, and NVIDIA becomes the symbol of future and progress and innovation. Right. So, how do you deal with these two?
Yeah. I mean, definitely. And to maybe just crystallize it a little bit further, right? There's two parts to this, the way at least I think about it. So, part number one is that for let's just call them, right, the comp sci graduates, folks that are wanting to pursue tech careers. There's others too, right? I don't mean to make this about that, but generally speaking, right, people that want to pursue a career in tech, they have three categories of companies that they can approach. So category number one would be the creators of new tech, right? So you mentioned NVIDIA and Microsoft and Alphabet and so on, right? Companies that are creating technology that then drives businesses. And you can throw in, right, the Intels and Cisco's from past days into that category. So then you got the next tier, right, which is tech forward companies that are building or creating tech-enabled businesses and products. So this is the category you'd put in your Ubers and Netflix and DoorDash and so forth, right? And then you've got your next tier of companies, which are traditional businesses that they are using technology. They maybe have an IT division and people work there. And they may, in some cases, be very large divisions, right? A large percentage of the company is working in IT. But the fundamental business is not tech-driven, tech-enabled in that sense. So that's on the one hand, right? When you're talking about this paradox, so that's one. And so, of course, when people are, wanting to pursue tech careers, they will gravitate towards that first category or the second category. The third category is really not something that people that are interested in tech going to. People that go there are usually people that have interest in that business for some reason, and right. Then they go join the IT area. But the second part of this paradox is that as much as in insurance we've been going through rounds of modernization and transformation, which is getting us off of some of the traditional 80s, 90s, even let's put 2000s decade into that, right? Technologies from those eras. But despite all of that, the gap between the level of tech adoption in insurance and what is probably, even let's call it 70th percentile in tech, that gap is widening every year. So it's hitting the industry from both ends.
Yeah, I still struggle. Right? How do we convince the IBM COBOL news in the last few weeks? there's two types of articles swirling in the internet, right? One is, now no need to worry about COBOL, and no need to worry about the retiring COBOL, white-bearded programmers and things like that. But then there are these articles that talk about, well, I think these guys are completely misguided. I don't think it's easy to pull together a COBOL out. So in that sense, like, do we really target the 22-year-old and say that, hey, this is not about COBOL or maintenance, but this is about, surgically transforming an industry and taking it to the future? Not saying that it's in the back, but it's kind of in the middle, and then taking it to the future. I don't know if that kind of framing is even possible, but maybe some forward-thinking, insurers like Liberty Mutual and others are perhaps trying.
Yeah, I would tie this back to sort of the perception, tax that we talked about earlier. That just like at industry level, we got to address this perception challenge. I think within the tech space, we also should be addressing this perception challenge, where you can talk about we are not dealing with maintenance of these classic and systems of past eras. In fact, we are providing careers that allow folks to build the future, right, as we go along. Where else are you going to build the future, right? So that's a rebranding of the insurance tech, right? And of course, it would be somewhat disingenuous of me to sort of just let it slide like that. It's not just a perception, right? There's also the reality that has to back that, which is we gotta make our processes and products much more digitally native and tech forward compared to where they are today.
Yeah. Related to that, I think I'm going to kind of pivot to the fourth. I know there was a third part that we wanted to talk about, but I'm going to pause there a second and then pivot to this idea that, when I mentioned Liberty Mutual, Boston, you at least get to, at least primarily Boston, there's probably other locations, but you get at least high quality talent in Boston. But then you move, let's say west of Boston into Hartford. And then you further go to the Midwest, into Boise and other places where there is a significant insurance presence. Is there a small town problem here besides the tech paradox, where these hubs are in mid-sized cities on one end, and then the post-COVID paradox or post-COVID challenge of do I go remote? Do I go hybrid? Do I go full, in office 5 days a week? And there's an inherent risk mindset where, I really want all of my people to be in the office 5 days a week. I think that's another dimension that's adding to the wrinkle.
Yeah, it is playing out, right? So in my day job, in my consulting work with clients, it plays out like that for sure. That there was, of course, no choice but to be open to remote work during the pandemic. And so companies did hire remote workers or even allowed workers to, move away and be away from proximity to a physical office and all that. But in the return to office, vast majority of companies are now in hybrid models where, okay, yeah, there is some possibility to do remote work, but you cannot be fully remote. Which means your talent pool is limited to whatever is a reasonable sort of driving distance around where your physical offices are. And so that certainly is limiting who you can attract. And the geographic location, right? That is just an ongoing challenge, and it's again, most acute in tech. I'm sure it is applicable in other areas of an insurance operation, but in tech for sure.
And tech is probably
Because
hurting.
see, if you're in a big town, right, big city, you have more of those category one and category two employers as well. So if people will, start out in insurance and they'll build up some skills and then they'll go pursue the higher paying opportunity in one of those other companies in those other categories. And so that's a problem when you're in a large city. When you're in a small town, then your pool is limited because
Right.
it's just a small town, small
Yeah,
population.
I,
So
I, I thought, locations like Des Moines, got the credential to become kind of that, quasi capitals of insurance. But I wonder if that time has passed where there's not enough supply of a next generation of, even if it's not, next generation that is growing up around Des Moines, but the next generation from the rest of the America wanting to move to Des Moines area to work.
yeah, and I mean, to be fair, right, to these areas, I think they do recognize, like, the local commerce chambers and economic development authorities, right? They do recognize this, and there are some public-private partnerships that are going towards building out, accelerators and ecosystems for InsurTech, so forth. But these are, not the fast acting solutions by any means. So the challenge there is certainly present. And I'm not sure what else to, suggest as an alternative beyond the openness to widen your talent pool by being open to more remote employment opportunities.
Yeah, which brings me to bring back that third, call it, component of this talent crisis. The SaaSocalypse and the AI and the agentic AI and all of the other revolution that are happening in machine learning and tools related to machine learning, and how coding is automated, testing is automated, and app development is automated, and sometimes just people are even questioning, do I even need an app anymore, right? So in that thread is the question that is there a dimension of this apprenticeship that is a threat, where relatively junior employees learn the tricks of the trade and then become experts over a period of time? And are there even enough jobs to begin with, right, to hire these people? So I think that needs some unpacking and acknowledgement, right?
Yeah, I mean, so look, as we're recording today, right, we got February jobs reports.
I just saw that.
Uh,
Apparently, a big
there's a
disappointment. Is it?
Yeah, I mean, higher deficit in job growth, meaning that we've reduced even further, unemployment's higher. So the macroeconomic situation is there, right? That is not in any one company's control. So we've just got to work through that. But to the point of what is behind it, right? So this is where I have somewhat of a let's say more middle of the road kind of outlook that reality in a lot of cases, right, is never as rosy as it may seem, and neither as gloomy as it seems at first blush. And from a market standpoint, I believe there is an overreaction, but a shift will happen, right? I think that much is worth acknowledging. Where will it land? So who knows, right? You and I don't have any special crystal balls. We would speculate just as anybody else. But I would, go a step further and say that we ought to prevent the demise of apprenticeship in insurance, even if the fundamental forces pull us in that direction. Because yes, where else are we going to get the uh, nurturing of skill, if not through training new faces and fresh blood in the industry.
But that brings up another angle to this is, isn't insurance highly, rules based and knowledge dense, if we can use that word? And what I'm afraid, I can't believe I'm saying this, is to the extent that it is rules based and knowledge dense, I'm afraid a well trained model will pick that up more and more, and can be within reason trained to answer, let's say, 90%, if not more, of the questions and ideas, right?
Well, look, I think there's certainly merit to these things, right? Yes, there's a large amount of complexity in insurance. It's there's not a day that goes by when I myself don't think about, oh, here's a new thing I learned about insurance today, which I didn't know before, having been working in the industry, 20 plus years. And everybody I know goes through that as well, right? It's just something or the other new that you learn every day. So, meaning that this complexity is self evident to us, those of us that are in the industry. But there's also a good bit of judgment that goes in decision making. So while there are rules and methods, I think there is more. What shall I say? It's more guidelines than rules. It's more heuristics than specific methods, so forth. So I think automation will certainly make the simple things, take them off plates of people. But the complex things will remain, and we will need to develop the experts that can address those complex things and train the future models to become more, diverse and versatile.
Yeah. I think we should open it up for the audience to probe this, and please challenge us on LinkedIn or any other channel of engagement to see how you're seeing all of this talent shift happening. Um, on that note, I want to bring it back home by pulling the narrative all the way back up and say, as our main audience target, the executives in an insurance company, is there an opportunity to reframe the industry, like we already talked about, right? The engineering the resilience, or stewardship of resilience, or the original data science industry. I think you and I have talked about that in this podcast, from literally from the first podcast. But is there an opportunity to bring? I'm going to just say it. Is there an opportunity to bring the sexy back into insurance, right? And so I think maybe we should just talk through some of the takeaways from an executive's standpoint.
Yeah. I mean, for sure, right? I would say number one is address the stigma that goes with insurance, and the perception challenges that we've talked about earlier. And there, I think it's at two levels. One is at just the industry level across the board. And then number two, within that, specifically for tech, I think there's good opportunity to recast the opportunity within insurance for tech, careers, building the future, establishing the next wave of legacy and so forth. So I think both of them are there and absolutely worth paying attention to from a leadership standpoint.
And then I think it's a little bit of everything that we said, right? So be willing to perhaps hire talent from, off, common locations or insurance hubs. Even bring in, I see a wave of CIOs now in insurance who have come from a banking background, actually. So somehow there's this trend happening that many of the insurance CIOs in North America, at least, are people who've been kind of either a CIO or second in command of a CIO in a larger bank. And so, yeah, I think that's great. I think that's a good trend. But I'm also thinking, like, why not in that same line attract in all levels of the organization talent from different backgrounds and industries. And then somehow I think we still have to talk through this. How does AI play a role on this?
Well, yeah, I would say that is the second piece that, from a tech leader standpoint, right? Recognizing that, yes, there, as much as I was saying earlier, that it's, guidelines more than rules, and heuristics maybe more than exact, recipes. But that is ripe for AI processes and LLMs and the like to understand and play a role in automation. So I think some of these businesses, and insurance, right, is not the only one like this, right? You can say the same thing for something like accounting, right? Rules-based kind of processes. There's a big scope for it. I think we've heard a lot of companies talk about doing a lot with AI. We're still waiting for seeing what people are actually doing and where the results are. So for whatever reason, it's been evasive, but we must get to the results of all that effort.
On that note, I think it's exciting times. I'll say that I think I'm really thrilled that at this stage of my own career, I'm actually in an industry that actually is actually pretty exciting. As much as all the innovation is happening, you and I talked about how this idea of software development, testing, and things like that are getting better. And in that spirit, I think that hopefully it will speed up the innovation that has been somewhat lagging in the space.
Yeah.
So with that, I thought I will just wrap up by saying, I think it's a topic where there wasn't any necessarily a conclusion or any big insight, but I thought it was important for us to talk through something out of the ordinary topic of some tech team versus talent and a people-oriented team. So I'm glad that we were able to touch it, and look forward to hopefully our audience reacting to it.
Yeah, and look, not to kind of pat ourselves on the back about it, it's just one of those things. We identified it 2 years ago, right? It's in sort of the tag, the opening of every episode where we talk about the talent crisis facing the industry.
That's right.
But it's taken us 2 years plus years to actually do an episode about it. More to talk about, more to unpack for sure, but about time that we covered it.
Yeah. Awesome. So with that, thanks, guys. As always, continue to support us, and we look forward to making the next episode in the next few weeks. And feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and engage with us in all channels. And we'll see you in the next.
And that's a wrap for today's conversation on PremiumBytes, where we shine a light on the unsung world of insurance technology leaders. Thank you for joining us on this adventure and being part of our community. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, and follow us. Until next time, take care.